Hi, I'm Jacquie McIntyre. Thanks for joining me. This is probably one of the most powerful techniques that I can ever teach you. It's called the Cortices technique. And it is the only technique out of the entire body talk system that can be taught as a standalone technique, which is what I want to give you today. The whole idea of Cortices is that it improves brain function. So during this technique, what's going to be happening is that both the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain is going to have improved communication. So the communication, the data that gets transferred from one hemisphere to the other improves. The circulation within the brain improves. Once the brain's function is able to improve, it means that then the body's function is able to improve as well. This technique also is going to allow the nervous system to be able to calm down and just find a nice rhythm and mode for it. So after you finish learning this technique, you can also then implement it for your kids as well if you like. And here's a little bit of a tip, because I train and I work with animals in a body talk capacity, is that if you learn this technique and you think, wow, this would be really good for my dog or my cat, you're right, it is, it's fantastic. Animals love the Cortices technique, not to mention body talk, they just love body talk. But do not do the technique hands-on with an animal, and there's a few reasons for that. One is that it hinders their healing ability. They have a very special protective boundary space around them, which I'm sure majority of you know about. When we come into their space and we lay hands on them to tap out the cortices, they're not going to naturally do what they would instinctively want to do in order to be able to process the technique, let the energy run through their body and allow the body to be able to implement a healing process. So things that they would naturally want to do is maybe to get up and walk around, they would want to empty their bladder, they would shake, they would roll, they would lick their lips, they might even groom, and a lot as well. So then I'm going to encourage you really, really strongly that yes, do this technique for your animals, but do it on yourself and set an intention within yourself that you're doing the technique on your animal. Now, I'm going to take that a step further. If you ever get the chance to come and do class with me, I teach access for animals and access for people as a combination class. And this Cortices technique is the first technique that you learn in that protocol. I go into a lot more detail about the techniques and about how you implement all of the techniques in many, many different ways. So it's always inevitably a question that I get asked and practitioners get asked all around the world is, how can I do Cortices for my animals? So I knew that would come up or wanted to address that. Do the Cortices technique on yourself with the intention that you are doing it for your animal. And then if you get a chance to come and do class with me or one of the other instructors around the world, then you can do that. So a few things that people notice from doing the technique is that, as I mentioned, it improves the synapses through the brain. It improves the functioning through the hemispheres of the brain. It improves the nervous system's ability to be able to stay calm, and so that then you're better able to navigate life and navigate situations around you. And quite often people say that things that used to really bother them or they would react towards, that would trigger about, they stop doing that as much, or it completely goes away for them. So a lot of people notice really, really great things about that as well. In the Cortices technique, when we do this, we do some tapping processes over the top of the head brain, over the heart brain, which is just to the left of the sternum, and also to the gut brain. Now, when we do tapping over the gut brain, it's about an inch or two above the belly button. And the main area of focus is on the small intestine. The reason why we do tapping over the head brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain is because they all have very distinctive roles and they do very different things, but equally as important. When you do the Cortices technique, another added bonus is that you're getting these three brains to harmonize and work together as a team, and that typically is not the case for majority of people. Majority of people have head brains that are a way too over capitalize, they do too much functioning, and they try to take on a lot of functioning that's actually meant for the heart brain and the gut brain, and it doesn't do it very successfully. That's why we see a lot of very overwhelmed brains, very, very busy minds, and nervous systems that are really shot. The purpose for tapping over the top of the head brain is that it brings the brain's attention to the order of healing process that needs to go on right now when we're doing the Cortices technique. So it prioritizes that. It asks the brain to look at it specifically. The reason why we tap on the heart brain is that the heart brain remembers it. It's like a mainframe computer. So when your innate wisdom wants to come back and remember how to normalize something or how to repair something, quite often it comes to the intelligence of the heart brain to get that information. So the heart brain puts in place what should be as opposed to what was going on, especially in relation to imbalance. And then when we tap over the gut brain is amazing. It actually has this process of discernment. So it sorts out what your priorities are right now. What needs to happen in order to get the cortices balanced and that brain and nervous system functioning much, much better than what it has been. So it's just light tapping process that you do over the head brain, but you're going to imagine that there is a line down the center of the brain, and when you're tapping, it's a nice wide open hand, so you're connecting on both hemispheres of the brain. You're also going to be tapping over the heart brain very gently, and then over the gut brain, as I mentioned. But as you're doing big, deep, exaggerated breaths, you're going to be breathing in and out whilst you're tapping over all three brains. And I just want you to really trust your instincts on where you need to tap, on what brain, and for how long. So I just continue to take nice big deep breaths, and I tap out like this, just alternating like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the technique.